honesty always feels the best. Like if you're not true with yourself or if you're not true with others, it just doesn't feel good. And so I wanted to live in a way that feels good.
Hello, and thank you for calling the Higher Self Hotline, your direct line to the divine. You've been led here by your inner knowing, and you've arrived right on cue. I'm your host, Zoey Greco, and together we'll make the ethereal earthly, helping you consciously embody your spiritual knowing and most authentic self. Please listen carefully to the following options. To discover how to fulfill your soul's purpose, press 1. To unlock infinite abundance in life, love, and career, press 2. To heal your mind, body, and spirit, press 3. To speak with your personal spirit guides, press 0. Please hold while we connect you to your highest timeline. Hello, Divine Darlings, and welcome back to the Higher Self Hotline. I'm your host, Zoey Greco. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today, I have a very special guest that if you don't know, I will truly and genuinely be shocked. And I happen to know that quite a few listeners who made their way over last season are already a huge fan of today's guest. Today, we are joined by Aileen Xu. Aileen is the content creator and entrepreneur behind Lavendaire, empowering people to become their brightest selves and create their dream lives. Her YouTube channel has over 2.5 million subscribers, and her podcast, The Lavendaire Lifestyle, has over 11 million downloads. Way to go, girl. She's also created a stationery line of guided journals and planners for living an intentional and fulfilling life. Aileen, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Zoey. I'm super excited for today.
You know, the last time that we connected, I was on Lavendaire Lifestyle. And even though, you were asking me questions, I still could just feel like the brightness and the warmth of your energy. And since getting to come on your show, your audience and your community has been so welcoming, loving, inviting. I've had some join my mentorship program. I've had sessions with some. I've really begun to build a very loving, strong bond with your audience. And that type of resonance is so profound to experience. And I just think you've cultivated a really meaningful and beautiful community.
Thank you. That means so much to hear it from you. I loved our conversation. I just remember how good it felt. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't even remember what you talked about, but you just remember it felt so good.
I have been a voyeur of yours for quite some time, but I'm curious if you can share with the audience a little bit about how you were led into this present expression of your purpose. What was the road that led you here?
Well, I would say my road began around senior year of college, where I was very lost in life. Upon final year of college, graduating, I was in a period where up until that point, I felt like I was living life on autopilot. I was living life following the steps of what other people told me. Oh, just do good in school, go to a good college, get a good job, blah, blah, blah. And once it was time to choose a career, that was when I was just stunned. I was paralyzed because there was no roadmap. There was no, here's how you do it step by step. And I knew in my heart that the path where I was headed, which was I studied business, I was going to get a corporate job type of path. I just knew that path was not for me. I've tried a lot of internships, worked at different companies, and I just didn't like the environment. I didn't want to eventually have my boss's job or the boss's job. And I was like, okay, so what do I want with my life? And that was the scariest question at that age. When you're age 20 and people ask you, what are you going to do with your life? It was so scary to face that because I had no answer. And so that kind of sparked my personal growth, self-discovery journey of who am I? What do I want? What do I want out of life? I got really existential. What's the meaning of life? What is a purpose? What is my purpose? And I started reading self-help books and just started trying to explore and figure it out. And so the big decision that I made was when I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm not going to take a job, and I'm going to forge my path and explore everything that interests me, right? I knew I had a feeling I wanted to do something kind of creative, but I had no idea what path would provide me the life that I dreamed of. Because I had all these things. Oh, I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to afford this, and I want to have free time. And so I had all these components of my dream life, but I didn't know how to get there. And so I spent a few years of pursuing music, acting, marketing, PR, just trying a bunch of different things all at the same time. And my life was kind of a mess. But what was interesting about that time period of my life was I realized like, wow, I didn't have to take a traditional path and I'm surviving. Like I'm not making any money, right, in those years, but I was having so much fun in life. I got to meet people in the film industry. I met friends. We decided to, let's fly to Taiwan and shoot a short film there, right? So I was an actress and producer on a film that we shot in Taiwan, and I went on a singing competition. I did all these fun things. And I was also on YouTube making music videos of me singing, playing piano. And at the time I got recognized by some EDM DJs. They're like, oh, look at this cover that this girl made of my song. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So although I guess traditionally I was like not successful by any means, but I felt so alive and I felt like life was so fun. And anyway, that whole experience really inspired me that life is what you make it. And I came to this idea that life is an art, make it your masterpiece. Because at the time I was essentially declaring to myself and the people in my life, I am an artist. I'm going to pursue a creative path. And that was also like a conflict that I had to have with my parents, specifically my dad, who clearly he didn't understand, why can't you just get a job? Like, well, what? You're not an artist. Artists are crazy people. You're not crazy. And he would, we really butt heads. And so there was a lot of difficulty choosing that path. But anyway, this idea that inspired me was like, we really can design our lives in any way that we want. It really just begins with what can we envision, and then how can we take the steps to get there? And this, you might not know the how, but if you are led by like an overarching vision, eventually you take the steps that align with that vision. And eventually you get closer and closer there. And that's the idea that inspired me to start Lavendaire. And Lavendaire was originally my space to share everything that I was learning in my life up to that point. I was like 23 when I started Lavendaire. I thought that was late. I was like, oh my God, YouTube is so saturated. I'm so old. I'm 23 starting a new channel. Oh God. But I did it anyway. Because at the time, YouTubers were young. I mean, they're still young now, right? People do it from when they're 17, 18. So it's funny, right? At the time, I thought it was too late, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. Because I was like, I don't see anyone on YouTube talking about personal growth, especially for someone in their early 20s. And so I just decided to start sharing, talking about that journey. I got really into meditation, mindfulness. I've always loved journaling and yoga, but I kind of I guess through Lavendaire as a platform, it gave me a medium to dive deeper into all of this like self-growth, self-love, mindfulness, all that whole journey, spirituality. And I guess that's the story of how I started, and it's evolved since then.
I have to say there are so many pieces along the way that I resonated with personally, but also that I could hear so many of my clients in your experience, that idea of being young. I say this all the time, like asking an 18-year-old to decide what they're going to do with the rest of their lives is absolutely crazy. Like, you have to decide as a child what you're going to study and become and do.
They haven't seen the world. They don't even know what's out there.
They don't even know themselves.
Exactly.
Like, they haven't had the time to even, and you touched on this as well, this idea that, you had conflict with your family, particularly your dad, around, you wanting to pursue something more creative, expressive, organic versus something that might, be safer or more logical or more pragmatic. And that is a journey that I hear all the time as well from my clients. It's something that, as young people haven't had enough space away from our family and their expectations and their desires for us and that echo chamber to know ourselves either. And so the thing that really struck me about your story and your journey is that from the very beginning, everything you said had such a frequency of confidence. Like even when you were talking about like, I don't want to have my boss's job or my boss's boss's job. I don't know how many people go into the workforce being like, oh yeah, I'll be the boss. Like that's inherent confidence.
Well, it's more like, I was like, if there's any upward movement, right?
Yeah.
Do I want that life?
But even so, like there's a part of you that's like, oh, that's accessible to me. And then to, pursue creative arts requires confidence to welcome and embrace and cultivate visibility by putting yourself out on YouTube, even when you're having, self-doubt or, this idea that at 23 you're too old, which is crazy. But even when, you're having those thoughts, like underneath all of that, I could hear confidence. And so I'm actually really curious what your relationship with confidence is like and how that's grown or evolved for you, and maybe even where you feel like your journey with confidence began, because I think there's something to that I really want to touch on with you.
Wow. I love that you pointed that out, because I think in my perspective, I thought I was very not confident that whole way.
Sure.
Right. But you're right. There was a fire that believes that I could do it, right? Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have tried. If you knew me as a child, I am a super shy, introverted type, right? I was the type to I couldn't raise my hand and speak in class. I was just that really quiet girl that I had a lot of thoughts, but I never expressed it. So I wasn't very confident at all growing up. And I was quite sensitive. Like if someone said something mean once, it would like stay with me, right? But one thing that grew my confidence in high school. So the first time I started posting videos on YouTube was in high school. Maybe like junior or senior year of high school. That was the era where the beginning of YouTube, where people were posting acoustic cover songs. And so I love to sing, but no one in my life outside of my immediate family knew that I like to sing, because I kept it a secret. I was not the type, I didn't tell anyone anything about myself. And so I was inspired. I was like, oh, look at all these people uploading videos singing. Oh, let me try. And so I started uploading videos on YouTube, and it was very comfortable for me to upload a video of me singing to the internet, because I don't know anyone on the internet. They're anonymous. I don't care. Right? It's not a real person. And so slowly that kind of built my confidence, because I was allowing myself to be seen by people, but it felt like imaginary. And the funny thing was, I guess a few months in, I was in band, and then one of the girls was like, Aileen, I think I saw you on YouTube. Did you post a video on YouTube? And I was like, oh my God. You can imagine the embarrassment. And so eventually the word got out. And then of course I couldn't lie. I was like, yep, I do. That's me. I sing on YouTube. And so slowly the people in my life, like my friends or peers, were like, oh my God, I had no idea you like to sing. And then it was almost like I'm slowly revealing my true self that year. And I think because YouTube gave me that baby step, and then I was forced to like admit who I was to the people around me, that helped me build my confidence. And then also just being a performer, like I love music. I love musical theater. I think just having that experience of being on stage also helped my confidence, right? It was the singing, dancing. In college, I joined like a hip hop dance team. I think dance for any human being will boost your confidence, right? Just learning how to use your body and how to be on stage and be seen. So I think by the time I was 20, I had built some level of confidence.
Wow. The other thing that really strikes me about your journey, especially as an intuitive practitioner, is how connected to your inner self you've kind of been along the way, and how willing you've been to nurture that self. Because I'm really hearing that in your story, like, you were naturally drawn to music and performance. And even though you were shy, you still felt this inclination to nurture that part of you and create space for it to exist. And I think that that's the thing that most people struggle with, is making space in their lives for that part of them that says, I like singing, I like dancing, like I want to do this. And I also think there's some of us in the world, and I'm also a musical theater kid. I'm a performer, musician. Like we definitely share that in common. And I think it does, like, look, my whole brand is built on like the idea of me being like dramatic and on stage.
You are so theatrical. I love it.
Exactly. I'm very theatrical. And there is really like power in that. I think that also, and I'm it's hard for me to say this, but I'm working on like speaking boldly and confidently. But like, I think there is magic in being an example of someone who is willing to do those things so that other people can be changed or inspired by that. And I feel like your work really is reflective of that, not just in, you know, the way that you've shown up sort of sharing your journey, but also in the tools that you've been committed to making for others. And so, you know, you talked about reading self-help books, you talked about, you know, yoga and meditation being tools that you were always sort of like innately drawn to. And I'm curious, you know, when you felt this sort of inclination or this call to sort of shift into work that is perhaps less performative, less like about expression and more about supporting others in their journey. You talked about that journey a little bit, but I'm curious like how that felt in your being, how it felt in your body, or how it felt in your energy to make that shift, and how you kind of knew that you were ready to make that shift.
Okay. So when I started Lavendaire, I was still intending to like continue pursuing music and being an artist. But I started Lavendaire because I felt like I love journaling and reading about self-help and personal growth, but there was no one in my life that I could talk to about those things. So again, the internet and YouTube is my outlets, and YouTube really raised me, right? So I think I came from that perspective. It wasn't like an intentional shift, like, oh, I'm doing this to help people. I think a part of me wanted to, like, it's when you're helping others, you're really helping yourself as well, right? Because as I'm learning these new things, the act of teaching and sharing it helps me learn it as well. I was really like learning and teaching. It was like this, you understand, it's like a system,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
As you go. So I think I noticed that it was really impacting people once I started, you know, a few months into uploading videos. I got really meaningful comments like, wow, this changed my life, or I never thought of life this way, or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's different. Because before I was just used to sharing music, and the type of comments you get for that versus when you're sharing about personal growth is completely different. And I think it's when I felt that energy of like, wow, this work can really help people, it made me more motivated and inspired to keep doing it. And it's a big part of why I do what I do, is the fact that I do want to make a positive impact on people's lives. One of the reasons why I didn't want to do like a corporate job, work in like advertising or something, was because I felt like there was no purpose or no positive impact. And I think I always felt deep down I wanted to make some sort of positive impact. I wanted to matter.
Oh, you know, I want to pause this for a second because I am desperate to do your numerology really quickly and talk about this.
Yeah.
Can you remind me of your birthday?
Okay, October 21st, 1990.
October is 10. October 21st?
Yes.
1990?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. No way. Okay, let me just do some quick math on your birthday. We're very close in age. We're like we're like less than 6 months apart. I'm April of 91.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just triple check my math here. Okay, 1 + 2 + yeah, okay. Oh, I would have put money on this. I wish there was someone I could have done.
Yeah.
So I wish I could have put money on this. So I talk about numerology a lot on the show, a lot on the podcast. And there are like 3 numbers that I very particularly like to kind of look at. One is your birthday number, which talks about kind of your innate gifts, like kind of what you are naturally talented with. I like to look at your attitude number, which is how people experience and perceive you. And then I like to look at your life path, which is sort of like how, like the journey that your soul is here to walk in this lifetime. Your birthday number and mine are the same. No, I'm not surprised. And which is a 3. And 3 is the performer. It's the creative communicator, the artist, like a celebrity. It's very like celebrity energy. It's charismatic. It's magnetic. And it is like adored and loved. So the fact that you've built this community, the fact that, you know, you're so just beloved and that people have been able to resonate with your energy when you are expressing, when you are shining, when you are being yourself, makes perfect sense. Your attitude number, the way people perceive you, is a 4. And this is the Lavendaire. This is like the journals. 4 is structure, discipline. It's like, it's order. We like a plan. We like a plan to follow.
Oh, yes.
And it feels good. It feels good to like ground into pragmatism and like logic. And that's the interesting thing, is that that's how people experience you. That's the first impression, is people like see you as professional, responsible, dependable, reliable. But this is the one that I was like, this is in here. You are a life path 5, and 5 is the adventurer. It is like the one who loves travel, the one who seeks change. Like it's the freedom seeker is what it's known as. And so the idea that anyone would try to put baby in a box and make her like work in corporate.
Yeah, no.
It was never going to happen. You are meant, like these numbers are so reflective of your journey. And I would be so curious to pull other, parts of your numerology, but the idea that you choose to use your voice to make an impact, but also by providing people with like structure and means and methods and opportunities to achieve freedom, because that's really what it's all about, right?
So, that's how you tie it together. I see.
Exactly. It's like so connected. And, this is actually, it leads me to my next question that I really wanted to ask you about, which is living intentionally, right? Like this is something that I myself, obviously, as an intuitive being, as a spiritual being, like that's a big part of what I'm passionate about. And, living with intention and designing your life sounds so romantic. It's like romanticizing life, really occupying and embodying yourself and your journey. What do you think, in your experience, whether it's through your own experience or what you've observed in your community or people that, consume your products or work with your resources, where do you see that people either get in their own way or things that tend to obstruct their path? Like what internal or external blocks have you experienced or observed that prevent people from feeling like they can turn their life into art and really like choose to design their life with their deeper desires?
Yeah. So our power really is in our awareness. Like the more we are aware of ourselves and our lives and of the present moment, the more we have power over what we do, right? Power over our thoughts, power to decide our future, really. So your awareness is your power, right? Where people get stuck and where they're having difficulty living with intention is when you are not aware. So meaning when you allow yourself to get distracted, when you spend too much time scrolling, too much time consuming mindless media, and your brain is just a mush, like hours go by and you're like, what just happened? So that's one big aspect, is like most people are just not aware in their everyday. And if you're not aware, how can you choose? Your power is in your choice in every single moment. In every single second, you have that power, but it's a choice. And so if you allow yourself to get distracted or sidetracked or numb to what's around you, then you have lost your power. And so that's a big part. Another part is a lot of people are held back by their fears, their fear and limiting beliefs. Some of these are conscious, like you recognize, like, I'm afraid, right? Like this is scary and I don't want to take action. I don't want to do it. Sometimes it's buried so deep that you don't even know you have this belief, right? It could be something that your parents told you when you were young that made you hold yourself back. This belief that, oh, I'm not good at this. I'm just bad at this. There's so many things that it could take, it's like an onion. You just got to like uncover yourself and your mind, the way that you work layer by layer, but you will find it if you, again, pay attention. It begins with attention, awareness. And from that awareness, you always have a choice.
I always say that becoming aware of something is what empowers you to shift it. So the thing that you're talking about these seeds that get planted in us without our consciousness or our awareness, yes, that can happen, right? Like whether, like you said, it's planted by our parents or society or the influences around us, but those influences are simply that. They are influences, and that can be shifted and that can be changed. So I'm curious for you personally, what your kind of like personal practice is in your daily life to cultivate your awareness or navigate your fears. And at this point in your journey, do you still experience waves of fear, waves of doubt as you attempt to reach for bigger things or pursue bigger things? And how do you sit with those emotions or experiences? Like, what are you currently in your today life using to navigate those experiences in yourself?
First of all, I still experience fear, self-doubt all the time. Almost every day. I think it's a normal part of being a human being. Also, if you are like pushing yourself and trying new things, it's always scary. There's always uncertainty. Uncertainty is always scary to our brains and our nervous system. But you just have to, number one, accept that that's part of your journey. And number two, know that it's not the end of it. You are still powerful. You can be stronger than your fears, right? Again, it's your choice. But the practices that have helped me over this, I guess, this whole time, I always lean on my foundational, like journaling, meditation, and some form of movement. So journaling, because I'm like an overthinker, I have a lot of thoughts, right? And if you're an overthinker type, you notice you're always thinking about the same things over and over again. It's the same problems, same worries. And so journaling is really my way to like get it out of my head and then work through it on paper, right? It's like I can be my own therapist, my own guide. And usually after you brain dump the surface level worries, you have a intuition, like the inner voice comes out, the inner voice that's like, no, but what if it works? But believe in yourself, trust yourself, right? So that internal dialogue, I always need a journal to work through it. If I haven't journaled in a while, I feel it. And then meditation is a practice of, I wouldn't say calming. I guess you can say calming the mind, but meditation is just honing your awareness. And it has so many benefits. And I really feel like you're just a more centered, peaceful person. Also emotionally, right? Regulating your emotions through meditation. And then movement, because we are physical beings and you can't expect to feel great all the time if you're not regularly moving your body. Because moving your body is not just like the physical exercise and health purposes. It's you have to move the energy through it has to circulate. Like if you're laying down all day, sitting down all day, something's not circulating, something's getting stuck, right? So when you move, you kind of spark that flow, that inspiration, you invite it back. And just if you are feeling stuck in life, just go out there and move your body. Like it will kickstart some sort of flow.
Journaling is definitely my best friend. I spend a lot of time with my journal.
Yep.
And I find that in my personal journaling practice, I kind of oscillate even in one singular like sitting, but sometimes between one and the next. Sometimes I feel like my higher self is the one talking to me. And sometimes I really feel my human self in my journaling practice. I'm curious for you. I actually saw this thing on TikTok that was like, your journaling isn't working because you're trying to be cool. Like you're trying to be cool in your journal. And I had to really tell myself,
you have to be honest.
Yes. Like I've had to tell myself like, girl, no one is going to read this. Like you're not Anne Frank. Like no one's going to be like publishing this. And you know what I mean? Like you get like, this is for
like
you.
You're not
girl.
even
like,
going to read it.
Exactly. Like I don't even want to look back at what I've been talking about in my journal. So I'm curious for you in your journaling practice, what parts of yourself you feel like are really at the forefront of that process? Or like, do you ask yourself questions? Do you prompt yourself? Or do you feel like those prompts are more useful for people who are just beginning a journaling practice? Like for someone seasoned like you.
I prompt myself all the time. Yeah, no. I prompt myself all the time because with a prompt, you can the better quality questions you ask yourself, the better quality answers you get. Sometimes my journaling has no prompts, like I mentioned, just brain dump the worries, anxieties, and eventually I try to always end it at a positive note where I end up encouraging myself. But other times it's like, if I'm feeling stuck, like I will I don't know. I think I'm naturally good at coming up with prompts, which is why I come out with like journals and workbooks. But
Yes.
I do often prompt myself any questions and then I answer them. Right. And sometimes I come back to the same prompts again and again because life has changed and I have changed, right? Simple prompts like, what do I really desire? Like, what is it that I really want and why? Like, has it changed? Right? The questions don't have to be complex. They just have to get to the root and the truth.
You know, I hear in you so much about, and again, I'm like reading the subtext of what you're saying and also not saying. That's just what I do. But I really hear your commitment to honesty. I hear that from the very beginning of your journey, and, you know, a commitment to be honest and say, everyone around me seems to know what they're going to do after we graduate. Not me. Like everyone around, like this idea that you're so willing to be honest with yourself. I'm curious how you were able to cultivate that level of willingness to be honest, because I think a lot of people are afraid of their own deeper thoughts, and they're afraid to hear. And I say that from my perspective as a practitioner, right? Because like most of the time in session, I'm sitting with people and I'm reflecting back to them things that they're afraid to say out loud, that they want to be true or hope to be true, or sometimes are afraid that are true. And there's some part of them that is resistant to that inner awareness. But it seems like you are just, and maybe it's that confidence we talked about, but like it seems like you're just willing to commit to the honesty, no matter what that looks like or what that means for you. So I'm curious, like how you cultivated that relationship with honesty, and how important you think that is in the process of like self-actualization.
Yeah. No one's ever asked me this, and I don't think I've given it too much thought actually, because I don't think I was always honest with myself. And I think it was more in my early 20s when I was going through a lot of mental breakdowns because I was lost and depressed and having a really difficult time. And I guess, yeah, it's more in my 20s and later, like starting Lavendaire, that I really embraced this idea of like honesty, authenticity, because to be honest, honesty always feels the best. Like if you're not true with yourself or if you're not true with others, it just doesn't feel good. And so I wanted to live in a way that feels good. I guess that's a simple way to put it. When you bring up that word, the first thing that comes to my mind was I came out with an album, right? I had this period, 2013, I wrote, recorded, produced my own album called Honestly. And the reason I called it Honestly was because I had written a poem about this topic after I kind of got really hurt by people that I thought were my friends. But in the end, you know, I would hear things like, oh, these people are really they're talking about you behind your back. They don't respect you. They don't really like you. They're just working with you because they're blah, blah. It was, yeah, it was my first, I guess it really like broke my heart because I really thought these people were my friends. And essentially they were judging me for being me. And I was like, why do they not like me? I don't know. I was sad, but I was confused. And then I wrote this poem like, honestly, this is who I am. So I'm going to be myself. I'm not going to change who I am to make you like me more. It was that like angsty vibe. So anyway, that inspired my album. Like I'm going to be myself honestly, because I guess I can't please everyone. Right? It doesn't matter what you think of me. I don't even know why you don't like me, but it is it, but I have to like me. So I think that's where it's sparked this whole movement.
Honesty. The reason I asked this question is because I think even though now we're in our like mid 30s, you and I have both been walking our path pretty steadfastly since our early 20s. And I think that is rare. It seems more to me like people are kind of coming into themselves more around our age versus kind of when we did. And I feel a lot of resonance with you as a human being, like your journey, just our interests, our like way of approaching life. And so I'm curious to pick your brain about this because I think these very like innate awarenesses in you, these things that just feel sort of visceral, are things that other people are trying to cultivate within themselves. And I would love, if I may, to add something to what you just shared, which is I personally perceive, I used to have a really difficult relationship with honesty, actually. I wouldn't say it was like a lying problem. I never was like out of control, but just I would extrapolate or exaggerate or expand the truth in my younger years as like a child and even as a teenager because I was insecure. I was worried about, am I cool enough unless I stretch the truth? Am I worthy? Am I lovable? I found that honesty is actually like a portal for quantum leaping, because when you are willing to be honest with yourself, you're not wasting all this time and energy circling around something that's not resonating with you. And like when you're willing to just say, I don't fucking like this. Like, this doesn't make me happy. This isn't for me. Like you did with corporate America. You were like, oh, sorry, I think I took a wrong turn. I think I'm in the wrong room. Sorry, guys. Like that is an honesty that most people don't come to until they're 10 rungs up the ladder and they're finding themselves so close to that top. And also, like you were sharing about this friendship sort of experience you had, like, yes, you being willing to be honest may have had that immediate result of pain and discomfort with the rejection from people that you thought you had developed closeness with. But that repulsion is also a creative force, right? Because it brings you into more resonance with people who will see and love and adore and like you. So the reason I'm asking these kind of like abstract questions that weren't really on my list is because the more that we're talking, the more I'm realizing you just kind of have this thing. You've got it. And I think that through this conversation, like I feel like my own mind is being blown because I'm like, oh, you know what? What if like that it factor is just a willingness to not compromise who you are.
Yes.
Like to just
it's
be
literally living as your most authentic self as much as you can. That's the secret. There's nothing else.
That's the sauce.
Right? Yeah. And accepting what comes. It might bring you good stuff. It might bring you conflict, but like accepting it, right? I also relate to you when we're young, we're doing everything to please the people around us. We're not really being our honest selves. I mentioned I was shy, right? I didn't express people didn't know who I really was, what I really felt, right? So I wasn't always this open and this authentic, but I think it's something I learned over time.
You just said something that really intrigued me. And I kind of want to ask you, you talked about like be your most authentic self, no matter where it leads you. I'm curious if there was ever a point in your journey where you were like, like, how did I get here? Like, even though it's good and I'm liking it, you seem to be a person that has a plan for herself. Like to some degree, it's to some level. So I'm curious, have there been like points in your journey that didn't go according to plan that you felt resistance to or like a lack of resonance with that actually maybe ended up being for you or maybe didn't? Like, I'm just curious how you've met that resistance.
That's a good point. Like when I say live authentically and that's the right way, people think, oh, does that mean it's always going to be good? No, it's still not. You're still going to have your ups and downs. Life is still going to life because we're meant to experience the highs and the lows in life. And it's not always fun to be at the lows, but I see it as like you need that spectrum. You have to experience the lows to appreciate the highs and to have that gratitude to understand why joy and love is so beautiful when you've experienced this. So yeah, even as I'm doing Lavendaire, trying to live my life as authentically as I can, I still have like limiting beliefs. I still have fear that holds me back. Sometimes when I think at that time, I think this is the choice. I'm so inspired. This is the authentic path. I take it and then it fails. And then I'm like, oh, that sucked. That sucks. Yep. That doesn't feel good. What happened? Why are things falling? Why are things crashing down right now? Right. So I have experienced that, but like you said, in the bigger picture, maybe when you zoom out, it was meant to happen. Right. Quick example is like my YouTube career. First of all, content career it has its ups and downs, like a roller coaster, but I had some really successful years. I think 2020 to 2022 were really just busy, lots of brand deals, money, lots of views because people were online during pandemic. People were learning about meditation and mindfulness. So it was a very busy and flourishing time for me. And then the past couple years have slowed down and I'm like, okay, what's happening? What is this? But at the same time, I realized that. And so right now I'm kind of inspired to like take work on new projects, take things in a new direction. I'm working on my book. I'm working on creating an app. And I was like, if I was just as busy as I was 2-3 years ago, I didn't have time. I didn't have the time to rethink my strategy. I didn't have the time to rethink pivoting because I was busy. Like when things are good, you're going to keep doing things the way that you've been doing them because it's working. But when things are not good, when you know that, either you failed at something, like something you really wanted to work didn't pan out the way you wanted it to, it is leading you in the right direction, even though in the moment it sucks, right? But right, it's like everything is leading you there, but you have to understand it's not always going to be up, up, up. It's going to have its ups and downs, but you just have to keep moving with it. It is like, maybe things slowed down for me so that I could have the time and space to plan my next chapter.
Someone once, obviously as a practitioner, there are seasons where my books are like wide open, no one's booking. And I'm like, oh, nothing to do today. And then there's seasons where I'm like booked to the brim, like praying for a day off, like, wanting a little moment of space. And one time many years ago, someone said to me, the universe turns off the faucet when we're no longer thirsty, like when we don't need something,
Love it.
And I was like, wow, what an amazing way to frame that. And so now every time that the faucet is turned off and I have all this open space, I really ask that space, like, what is kind of coming up in me, or what is this space asking me to step into?
Yes.
And it's so funny. You actually answered my question before I got to ask it, which was like, well, what's brewing for you right now? Like, what does the next step look like? And you are so in touch with like the beauty of space that, you answered that question before I even got to ask it, which was like so perfect, and just goes to show like you're really in resonance with where you are right now. But I am curious because you talked about, you've got a book, you've got an app in the works, like all these amazing things. And clearly there is some part of you that is really tapped in. So when you get these ideas, when you have the room for the ideas and when you get them, what enables you to kind of explore your options as they come forward for you and go, this feels right, this doesn't feel, because I'm sure you have, 100 great ideas for every 10 that you actually pursue. So how do you distinguish between the ideas that feel right for you to take action on and the ideas that are just like, wow, that is cool, but like, maybe it's not my idea?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm still kind of figuring it out because I'm the type that I get a lot of ideas and sometimes I really love them and I want to do all of them. And then I'm like, wow, I don't have the time or the mental capacity. So I know an idea is for me if it keeps coming back. Because when an idea first comes to me, honestly, sometimes, you should act on your idea right away. But I tend to be like, okay, let me brush it off. Let me think about it later. But sometimes an idea just keeps coming back. And the more it keeps coming back, it means I was like, okay, there's a part of me that really wants to pursue this. It's really calling me. And that's when I know I should follow it. That's what, and the way it keeps coming back could be either in my own thoughts or it could be like signs in my life, whether someone's brought this topic up or, you know what I mean? You have to pay attention to the signs in your life. And I'm really big on like synchronicities and angel numbers and seeing repeating numbers. So sometimes it's like if I'm in a stage of my life where when I'm thinking about something and I see the repeating numbers, I'm like, okay, that's a sign. I guess that's a sign that I should do it, or it's worth exploring. Not to say that it will succeed, because again, like I said, sometimes it's meant to take you to the next thing. You just don't know. But the fact that it keeps coming back means you have to pursue it.
That distinction I think is so important. And I hope everyone really kind of allowed that to sink in for them, because what I really heard you say was that it's actually not so much what's happening inside of you that lets you know. It's more about what's happening around you. And you're really just willing to pay attention. Because I think when we have a good idea, at least for me, like sometimes I'm like, damn, that's such a good idea. Like I don't want someone else to do it. Like I want to be the one that does it, which is just my ego in action. But I don't know that I can necessarily rely on my inner self to make that distinction. But for you, it's like, if it keeps arriving at my door, or if, I overhear it, or if I'm seeing the signs. And I think there's so much power and beauty in paying attention. And I'm curious if in your life that's something that has always been like, have you always kind of seen things and paid attention? Or is that a skill that you cultivated through mindfulness and just like through time?
Yeah, I think that's something that I cultivated in my 20s and onwards. Once I started becoming aware of what synchronicities are and experiencing them in my life, whenever I experience a synchronicity or a coincidence, it's always I make a mental reminder, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. So I think that helps me too in times of self-doubt, because right, internally, I'm always going between trusting and doubting. But the more you hone this, the more you just can act with trust. That's my goal. It's just to like flow and trust and then let the rest go.
You're such a balanced person. And I'm almost like the conversation we're having today, I've been really inspired. Like you've seen, I put my list of questions down. Like I've just been so inspired to meet you where you are, because I think you are such a profound case study in a person who is willing to hear their inner voice, take inspired action, but leave space for external awareness or validation or signals or signs. And I think that is so important, especially for someone that is ambitious. Like you are an ambitious human being. And I think like when we have this innate ambition, again, something I relate to in you, like it's this fire in us that kind of drives us all the time. But we have to experience a balance between pursuing and pausing and creating space and opportunity outside of ourselves, not just the things that we generate into action. So I think you're such a beautifully balanced, grounded person. And the cool thing in you is that it sounds like in some ways that has been innate, that you've like nurtured it. Like there was a seed of that within you.
I am a Libra. I have 3 planets in Libra.
Well, then it definitely
it's the balance, the creativity, the love of beauty.
But you've also cultivated it. Like you've also put it into action and like watched it grow. And that is something that I think really is what makes you like a strong example to others. But the other thing that really strikes me about you, if I may say so, is that you really are like this overflowing cup. Like whatever comes into you, you sort of seem to have this innate desire to pour it back out into others. And that generosity, that like very innate instinctual desire to give is, I think, why people are so in such resonance with you, why your audience is, because like I got the opportunity to kind of be known by you, but I haven't really had the opportunity until today to really come to know you. And as I do, I'm like, man, you know, this really makes sense to me as to why, because even as a viewer of you myself, I'm like, yeah, like I feel it, I resonate with it. But having like this personal conversation, guys, she really is as amazing as she seems online. She really is.
Thank you.
And I think that, and I want to speak honestly for a second and say that's not always the case. When I have a conversation with someone, I'm like, oh, you're not exactly who I expected based on the way that you show up in the world and present yourself. And the reason that I really want to highlight your authenticity is to say it works. Like it works. Yeah, it's really important to me to highlight that. So I'm happy to have the moment and the space to do it. That's me.
It's so important for me to hear that. Let me just say, because like, again, because I don't know how people perceive me, I'm always in my own head. I'm always like, I'm doubting myself. I don't think people remember me. I'm like, oh, people don't watch my videos anymore. I have all this like, you know what I mean? All this fear, negativity sometimes, but it's so nice to hear it from you also, because I trust your intuition. Like she's a real intuitive, and if she's saying that about me, oh, thank you so much.
That is so kind. And, you know, I think as a creator myself, like I want to break the fourth wall for a second and have this conversation. Like for you as someone with, you know, millions of subscribers and millions of downloads, that is a position that I have yet to achieve. And so sometimes I feel like, will I I have my own doubts and fears. And I think for people to be able to hear someone like yourself who has reached that like upper echelon, shall we say,
there's
be
always,
like,
yes, we feel the same actually.
Yes.
Like how you feel is how I feel about other people and other businesses. But at the same time, we have to celebrate ourselves, right? We did something good.
Yes.
We're here. We showed up.
And I think that's like the joy of podcasting and getting to know people is my ego can rear up and make me feel things, but when I sit with you, and not that I'm like sitting around comparing myself to you all the time. I want to be very clear about that. But when I sit down and have a real, genuine heart-to-heart conversation with someone like yourself who has achieved these milestones that my listeners and myself and others are like, dreaming of, it's so validating, but also like grounding to realize that like you feel this way no matter what. And it reminds me, I'm not going to say who this was because this is their private moment, but I had a conversation with someone else who's a big podcaster in the space. This was years ago. And we were talking more as like friends. And she was like, I'm just kind of like, when is it my turn? Like, when am I going to get my moment? And I was like, girl, you're in it. Yeah. Like you are the moment. Like, what are you talking about? And so I think it's so important for people to hear, like listeners to hear, like people who haven't yet started their YouTube channel, people who haven't yet taken those steps, to hear that you felt doubt along the way and you still feel doubt today is so validating. It's so helpful and it's so important. And your willingness to be that honest, again, honestly, that is what I think makes you such a profound example. And that is why I think we want to listen to you. We want to watch you. We want to follow you because you are willing to be honest and show us that the journey is very, it has peaks and valleys. It has it all. And that those valleys sometimes are like the fodder for your creative inspirations. And we've seen that along the way in your journey, which is really profound and beautiful.
And also the journey is not what it appears on the outside. That's another thing, right? Someone watching might be thinking, oh, she's in her moment. This is it. But internally, I'm experiencing something completely different. So everything is just perception. Everyone has their own perception of reality. It's so interesting.
Which is why our self-awareness is the most valuable resource we have, because our other people's perceptions of us are not actually based in reality. They're based in their own, like, I feel like ego puts a filter over our eyes so like that we see. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like not every filter that ego puts over our eyes is, negative or like throws us into comparison or self-doubt or, difficulty. It's just, that's what we have. It's what we know. And that's how we are able to look at others. So I think the tools that you provide for people to be able to look at themselves is what really like we need. And so keep making it, keep doing it, and don't stop. And I can't wait. Like, please sign me up to be a beta tester on your app. Like,
okay.
Love that.
Definitely.
For you.
Thank you.
I would love to test the crap out of that. And I would love if you could share with people a little bit about what is cooking for you in your world and where we can follow, find, connect with you. Like, how can listeners continue to grow through your tools and example?
Well, thank you. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Lavendaire. My handle is the same across all platforms. And then my podcast is called The Lavendaire Lifestyle. And what's cooking, I already mentioned, is I'm working on a book. I'm working on an app. And the way you'll find out updates is through my email list. So lavendaire.com/mail. MAIL. That's it. Yeah.
Subscribe, people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I just like from the depths of my soul, from the tips of my toes, thank you for your willingness to be yourself in this world, because even in the moments that you're feeling maybe uninfluential, the ripples of impact that you create in this world are so profound, Aileen. Really, they are. And we need you. We all need you. So thank you for facing every moment of doubt in yourself. Thank you for facing the disappointment of your family. Thank you for facing like all the feelings that you've had along the way and meeting them with confidence and courage and honesty, even when it was hard, because it really is making a difference. And I'm honored to share my platform with you and to enlighten listeners to who you are as a person. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Zoey. Thank you for giving me the platform to share myself and for asking such wonderful questions. Like I said, many of these nobody has asked me before, and I feel like we went somewhere I've never gone before. So I loved it. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a side of you that's very lovable. So we're all very lucky to have experienced it. Well, there you have it, blessed babes. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. And I would love If we could take a moment to send this week's subject, Aileen, some love, sweetness, and positivity as she continues to help us create art out of our lives and build our existence into masterpieces. If you're interested in being on the show, you know what to do. Connect to me at podcast@zoegreco.com. You know where to find me on socials at the Zoey Greco. Look for that check mark. You know I'm never going to DM you. We're beyond that, people. And of course, I want to conclude by reminding you that you are important. You matter and you are perfect exactly as you are. I love you. Your spirit guides love you. Aileen loves you and the universe loves you. So until next time, keep answering the call of your higher self. Bye, friends.